Today's podcast is brought to you by the Herzog Foundation. Statistics are staggering regarding how many women these days have had abortions. In most cases, these women don't receive counseling afterwards, yet their decision can haunt them throughout their lifetimes. Well, today we're talking about the tender topic of finding support and healing after abortion. Stay with us. Welcome to the Moms for America podcast. Each week, special guests tackle the issues facing the moms of America today. Discussions include personal stories and advice on how moms can build a strong foundation of faith, family, and freedom in their homes and country. Karen Barbito is the Special Projects Manager for Support After Abortion. This is a non-profit organization that provides hope and healing to those impacted by abortion. Karen's story is, in college, she had had an abortion, and she thought that her experiences were behind her. It would take her 40 years before she understood that her abortion had left deep wounds, which had caused her decades of pain and suffering. Well, hi, Karen. Welcome to the Moms for America podcast. We so appreciate you stopping by and talking with us today. I know this is a somber subject, but obviously we need to be addressing this in a bigger and a more powerful way. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Debbie. It's a pleasure to be here.
I like to start out a little bit here in the beginning because I know women, sometimes we tell everybody everything, and then sometimes we tell people nothing for maybe personal pain or disreflection or suppressing. And this is just such an incredible topic for women, clearly. Tell us a little bit about how many women, what are the stats that we would say about women that have had abortions, just probably in our circle? Is it 1 out of 4? Is it 20? What percentage is it?
It's a great question. What Guttmacher, who is an agency that does a lot of statistics surrounding abortion and if it's hurtful to people or not, states by the age of 45, 1 in 4 women will have had at least one abortion.
I remember hearing something about that 1 in 4, and I was curious if that really was it. So that is, in our circles, it's touching everyone, clearly.
Yes.
Are women just not, when we think about that 1 in 4, I think in general, you kind of wonder why women are just not using birth control, because that's readily available, and why pregnancies are so high when there are maybe so many options. Why are there so many unplanned pregnancies? I could talk a little bit about maybe the crisis a little bit before we get into the answer in your story personally.
Oh my gosh, that's such a great question. And it's not an easy answer to that. I think people are using birth control. Maybe they're not using it as it's supposed to be used. But I think more often than not, really just to set the framework about abortion, abortion is a symptom of something much deeper, right? Things happen in childhood, trauma, abandonment, addiction, codependency, whatever the case may be. And we believe, as children, we're very self-centered and we believe lies about ourselves. I'll just give you a brief example because I know this is a little off topic, but I think it's really relevant to your question. My parents got divorced. This is not my story. I'm just making it up. But
Okay.
my parents got divorced when I was 5. My dad left the home. How could my dad love me if he's going to leave me? If my dad doesn't love me, nobody's going to love me. I'm never going to measure up. Kind of a dialogue that we have with ourselves as kids, right? And then it drives all of our decisions. And so I've worked at a pregnancy center for a while before we became our own 501c3, excuse me. And I had conversations with women who would come in a crisis thinking that they were pregnant, try to plan B, we're using birth control, whatever the case may be, or not. Because many of them don't use birth control because they want the guy to pay attention to them and they want to feel desirable, right? And so I've had a conversation with women like, do you love this guy? Do you want to spend your life with him?
Right.
No. I mean, is the sex so great you can't live without it? No. Then why are you in bed with him? I don't know. Right? So there's roots that we're not even aware of that drive.
Emotional.
behavior, and it's a vicious cycle. I mean, it was like a revolving door at the pregnancy center. Girls would be back every 6 months in a crisis pregnancy, just waiting to get that negative result so that they could go back and do the very same thing that they did before, right?
I guess, when we think of just emotional crisis or wanting to be loved or looking for something to fill a void, sex and bad relationships and unclear decision making, this is nothing new. It's just what's so heartbreaking about this is clearly there's a life. And then that life is being snuffed out in all this. So when we as women have emotional situations, I think the thing that we have to be considering is this leads to a life. And that's where it gets super tricky. Let's talk a little bit about your own story. You were personally affected by abortion a long time ago, but
Yeah.
this is something that women never get over. And healing is a huge part of this process and education. But what was your story, real quick? I know, give us kind of just that high level story of
Okay.
your personal.
I didn't grow up in a Christian home. I was a freshman in college. I met a guy and we were really in love. And we had sex, unprotected sex, and I got pregnant. And all I remember when I went to the campus nurse was, I cannot have this baby, because I wanted to protect that relationship. And it was a biracial relationship, and I knew my parents wouldn't approve. So I just
Wow.
was trying to fix a problem. I found out on Wednesday, had the abortion on Friday, back in class on Monday, problem solved. Can't say I was pro-life or pro-choice. I don't even know if I knew what that was at the time.
Right.
All I was pro-me.
Pro me. And that is probably a lot of younger women at this point, or just women in general, pro me, like what's going to affect me and how do I take care of this, right?
Hmm. Yeah, totally. It was a very selfish decision.
Now, did you discuss this with him, or did you get this abortion on your own? What happened in your relationship that it was
Um,
that quick?
I told my boyfriend, my roommate gave me the money. I can be really intimidating, when I have my mind set on something. And so I was probably really intimidating. And I don't remember anybody really questioning my decision. I just kind of bulldozed my way through it.
And when that happened, were you filled with grief and sorrow? Was this something, um, or did you have even a concept? I mean, that sounds crazy to say that, but did you even have a concept of what happened?
I didn't, not for years, not until I got married later on in life and we couldn't have children. And then it was like a gut punch. Like,
Yeah,
what
that
had
would
I
be.
done? Yeah.
That would be. And do you attribute it to maybe that abortion?
I'll never know. I mean, they didn't have ultrasounds back then.
Right.
They didn't have stuff like that. We didn't pursue any kind of fertility options. We tried to adopt, and that fell through at the 11th hour. And I knew it. There's red flags in life that we just tend to ignore if we want something so desperately, right?
Right.
I so desperately wanted to be a mom. That's all I ever wanted to be. And I told myself for decades, I'm never going to be a mom, which we'll get to that on the healing side because I am a mom.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is hope on the other side for all of the
Mhm.
moms that are listening. Again, 1 in 4 right now of anyone that's listening has been personally affected by this. You said you spiraled downward
Mhm.
for decades. There was a lot of issues in your life, and again, when we talk about you as an example, you are probably so many people can relate to this, right?
I don't know. I mean, like, I hope not, but
Well, I'm just saying about a series of problems. If you
yeah,
get an abortion, or you're looking for answers in the wrong places, or you're covering it up, or you're not.
yeah,
I think these are everybody's story is different. Some may be more severe or includes different alcohol or drugs, whatever it is. We do hear stories like this very often of a
yeah.
journey of a person that just takes them to like the bottom. They
It
hit
really
the bottom.
was. It was. I mean, it all pivoted for me when we couldn't have kids, and when the adoption fell through, that was maybe even worse because that was like final. Like there was no other options after that. And it did. I mean, I started to drink because I couldn't cope with what I had done. And the thing about abortion is that you can't go back and change it. You can't go back and fix it. It's final, and that's really hard to live with. And I tortured myself for years. I'd go into grocery stores and find the mom that was pushing the baby cart and coo and ca over that baby. And and to just go over to the next aisle and drop my groceries and run out of the store crying. I just put myself in places where I was going to run into kids. Just to,
Right.
I don't know exactly if I was trying to do that to punish myself, but logically that seems reasonable to me.
Right. And if you have a situation that you've never dealt with and you have a longing in your heart, oh my gosh, you really would look for something. If you don't have Jesus, you really do look for something to fix it. And somehow we think that other things will fix it. So, how bad did it get for you in this journey before you
Oh
turned
my
your life
gosh.
around and met Jesus?
Yeah, so that's oh my gosh, that's thank you, Lord. I got divorced eventually, alcoholic, as I said. I met another guy who I was a raging codependent. Let me just say that out loud. I mean, I chose the guy rather than not do drugs. I was a little naive about drugs, but he introduced me to crack cocaine and I, first hit. I mean, I was done. And so I spent about 4 years in my mid 40s running the hood, copping crack cocaine, spending hundreds of thousands of
Wow.
dollars until the money ran out. And when the money ran out, I started doing criminal things. And I'm a convicted felon. I've been in jail a couple times. And it wasn't until my parole officer told me that, or my probation officer told me that I was going to do 3.5 to 7 years in state prison if I didn't get clean. And so I went to my final rehab. It was probably the ninth one. And a case manager asked me if I thought I was codependent. I didn't even know what that meant. I didn't even know what
Right.
that meant. I
Right.
read the description on the front and I mean, I like started to sweat. It was like I was looking at myself in those words. And so I did the workbook and I got rid of the guy. And then I just started to
Wow.
put some days together and some weeks together and some months together in sobriety. And went back to college for social work from a halfway house. And that's when I mean, honestly, Debbie, if I'm going to be honest with you, I hated myself then. I
I'm
had
sure.
done things and been places and
Yeah.
did such horrible things that I just couldn't even. And so I went to the Bible and I wasn't familiar with the Bible, but somebody told me to start in Proverbs and write down everything that I didn't like about myself. And so I did. And I had pieces of paper hanging all over my walls and my ceiling. And I would add scripture to them every day and I would read them day and night. And so I spent about 6 months in Proverbs. And then I wanted to know what kind of woman God wanted me to be because I didn't know. I didn't have an identity. I mean, I was really insecure as a kid. I was overweight my whole life. And I just would be,
Sure.
do, and say whatever you wanted me to be, do, and say, just so it appeared as if I fit in. Just so you know, we know when we go through life when something's not real,
Sure.
right? When friendships aren't real. And so we can try to deny that to ourselves, but we know in our quiet moments when we have some like lucid thoughts that it's not real, it's fake. And
Yeah.
so I knew. And so I studied the woman of the Bible. And I mean, honestly,
And
it's
there you
been,
found hope. There
oh
you
my
found a reason to
gosh.
live.
Oh my gosh. Even when I was still a drug addict, God showed me a reason for me to live. And we don't have to go into that. But I mean, I don't know. I look back over my shoulder. It's been 22, almost 23 years. And I don't know how I got from there to here. Boy, I
Because
just gave
you
away
know
my
how bad
age.
you
I
just
just gave
right.
away my age with that thing, like in
Oh,
my 40s.
yeah.
Uh,
You mean you're 22. That's what you mean. No. Um, but yeah, it is. It's sobering in a good way to look back and see like you could have been dead.
Oh, for sure. I mean, there were so many situations where people were getting
Yeah.
shot around me. I mean, you can't do that kind of drug and not be caught
No.
up in that kind of stuff. And so I just tried to do the next right thing.
Yeah.
Our
The
minds
next
can
right
be,
thing. So
yeah.
let's tell us how did we so you started so now you're turning your life around. I love that when you said you put days together and then weeks together. That just touches your heart because you could just know how hard of a climb that is. Then you
Mhm.
started working with homeless people, and then you actually ended up at a pregnancy center. Take us through that quick journey.
Yeah. So I lived in Alabama. I was working in a drug rehab facility, and it was just too real. Even though I was like 6 years sober by then, or 7 years sober, it was just too real. And so I did that job for a year. And my parents, who lived in Florida, wanted me to come here. And so eventually I moved. And to be honest, just to be completely transparent, one of the reasons I didn't want to move to Florida is because I had told my parents two whopping lies that I knew I would have to confess to them if
Oh,
I moved here. So we had that conversation. And I moved here and I was searching for a job. I was living with my parents and I found a job at a church and it said the director of community assistance ministry. I had no idea what that was, but I knew that was my job because I wanted
Ah,
to have accountability. I know if I worked in a church, I mean, the presence of God is going to be everywhere around me, right? Like, and I'm going to have to live the straight and narrow kind of stuff. And so I tried to send in my application and I called and the woman said, "Oh no, we've got all the applications we want." And I said, "No, you don't understand. This is my job."
yeah.
And she goes, "Oh, that's so sweet. I love your commitment." I said, "No, I'm not getting off the phone until you accept my application." And so they did, and they hired me 2 weeks later.
Isn't that incredible? And I was just thinking about how, what a better person to do outreach
Mhm.
to
Yeah,
those in need, that someone that has lived it and understood it. I mean, you can learn this on a book, on a PowerPoint, but boy, when you have been living it, that is really it. So you just knew that God called you to this. So now I love that story. I love that never giving up, knowing that God put that in your heart. And now you start doing ministry
Mhm.
and making a great impact there.
Yeah. It was really small when I came. I had no idea what I was doing. I just showed up, and God just like directed my feet, and so I pounded the pavement for like
I
3 years.
love it.
And after 3 years, I didn't need to do that anymore because people were coming to us. And so we went from one church funding it, helping maybe 10 people a month. By the time I left, we were helping 3 to 4,000 people a month, and we had 33 churches that were supporting us.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Now, your abortion at this point, you're still not, this has not come back into your life to look at or to deal with, right? It's just
No.
it's a suppress it, you've hidden it, you pushed it down.
Right.
But somehow, and I don't know how do you get up at a pregnancy center
Oh,
and
such a
helping there? I mean, I got more doors open, huh?
I mean, God is just, I was at a funeral. I was at a funeral. A really great friend of mine, a donor of mine, her best friend passed away, and I was at the funeral, and an executive director, of a pregnancy center was there, and I knew her. Nonprofit world is small, so we attend similar luncheon meetings and things like that, and so I knew
Sure.
her. Um, and she asked me how the job was going because I had transitioned from the church to becoming the director of a homeless shelter. And I didn't like the job. I loved the people, but I didn't like the job. And so I started praying 6 months into it, "God, please fire me or help me find another job because I can't quit." And I ended up getting fired. And who would delight in getting fired except that it opened this door for this pregnancy center? I'd never been fired before. And I was okay with it. Like when they asked me, "Are you okay? Do you want to talk about it?" I'm like, "No, I'm good. Thank you." And walked out. But I was at this funeral and I told her I didn't have a job. And she goes, "Well, let's get together. I might have something for you." And so we met for coffee and I filled out the application and I used this donor as a reference. And this job was only part-time and I was willing to take whatever because I needed to pay my bills. And this donor said, why don't we have Karen research abortion healing in the state of Florida and find out how people are doing it and what clients are actually asking for. And let's build this out. And so she paid the other half of my salary so I could be full-time.
And the question, amazing. And the question comes up, were you ever pregnant? Right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Like when they were going to hire me, they said I was honest on my application that I had had an abortion, and she goes, "Well, you got to go through healing." I'm like, "Healing? What's that?" No, I'm good. I've been through all kinds of recovery. I've taken responsibility for all the wreckage I've created. I've cleaned up my side of the street. I've made amends. I'm good. "Well, we know you're good, Karen, but if you want the job, you got to go through healing." Man, I'll tell you what,
Mm.
I had no idea how not okay I was.
Hi, moms. When we return, we will continue our discussion with Karen Barbito on finding hope in healing after abortion. We'll be right back. Hi, moms. I'm excited to share some news about our new sponsor, the Herzog Foundation. We know you're passionate about raising patriots and empowering your children with the best education possible. And the Herzog Foundation shares that passion. They're dedicated to promoting liberty through education freedom and helping parents like you choose the best educational path. They offer a powerhouse of resources designed to support families and schools alike. Whether you're ready to dive in headfirst to the world of education or simply looking for more ways to empower your child's learning. From free training events to their must-read online publication, The Lion, they're committed to keeping you informed about what's happening in education. Also, if you've ever thought, moms, about starting your own Christian school or co-op, their School Box online course will give you everything you need to get started on the right foot. Again, we are so proud to partner with the Herzog Foundation, and we encourage you to explore all their amazing tools and the insights that they offer. So go ahead, visit herzogfoundation.com to learn more. You won't want to miss these incredible resources. Again, find it all out at herzogfoundation.com.
You know, I've never really felt comfortable sharing pictures of my kids on social media. Then I found Tuvu, a premium social app with an actual, authentic community. No bots, no one trolling me or my family. Just clean, wholesome content you can trust.
Welcome back, moms. Before we continue our interview with Karen Barbito of Support After Abortion, I would like to remind you to like, subscribe, and share this podcast. Obviously, this podcast is another topic, another episode that is so important to moms that are healing after abortion. So please go ahead and share this with moms in your circle. Also, if you have a topic or an idea that you would like to share with me, would you personally, you can just email me at podcast@momsforamerica.net. That's the place where I get the emails regarding our podcast, and love to hear from you regarding topics or guests or any kind of feedback. Lastly, moms, if you have not joined the movement here at Moms for America, you need to be here. You are one of us. You are one of our mamas. Here at Moms for America, we are uniting all across the country. We're about 500,000 moms strong in our network. We are fighting for faith, family, freedom, and the Constitution, and we would love to have you a part of our family. How do you do that? It's simple. It's free. It's filled with tons of resources available to you. You go to momsforamerica.us. You sign up for our newsletter. You fill out one of the forms. We connect with you and help you in your journey through motherhood there in your home. We have so many resources available to you. So please check us out, momsforamerica.us, because that's how we are making the greatest influence on our community and our home is through you, moms. Tell us, what does healing look like, and why is that obvious clearly so important?
Well, the first epiphany that I had is that I am a mom. You know, I spent decades telling myself and beating myself up because I was never going to be a mom because of the decision that I made. But I am a mom. Oh my, there's so much in the healing process. I mean, it's a journey that you take. I mean, there's so many things you kind of acknowledge. Just to summarize it, you acknowledge how you're feeling about it, who influenced your decision, the law, the nurse who gave me the card to the clinic where I could get it, my roommate for so readily giving me the money. You just acknowledge who's influenced the decision. Myself, big part of it. I used to think that my parents influenced my decision based on how I speculated they would respond to it. I unfairly judged my parents. And so you work through stuff like that.
Right, because they never knew, right?
They never knew. My mom knows now. My dad's since passed away.
But I'm saying, right, at that point, I know exactly what you're saying. They'd be disappointed. They'd be upset. They would, they would tell me to have this. They would do this, but you never even had that discussion with them.
That's so true.
Yeah,
Again,
I can see that.
It was very unfair of me to put that on them, and so then you got to work through anger, and be willing to forgive. I mean, I prayed for a long time just to be willing to forgive. Right. And eventually God granted that prayer for me. And then you bring, like my dad passed away and we had a funeral for him. And so many of us talked about how my dad poured into our lives, as kids. He taught the grandkids how to fish, how to take a fish off the hook, right? He taught me how to play table tennis. And I mean, just all the fun things. I used to play football with my two older brothers and my dad. I'd hike the ball and then run out of the yard. And just like so many, we just reminisced about really fond memories, right? And we said some prayers, we sang some songs. The pastor gave my mom a flag because my dad was a veteran, and then we were done, right? And we needed to leave the building. We were still sad, but we had to move forward, right? And it's the same thing even when a child is lost to abortion, for a man or for a woman, to bring dignity to that life, to acknowledge the potential that was lost, the potential of a pregnancy, perhaps a relationship ended after abortion. There's so much
Mm,
potential that was lost. And if you think about the 60 million plus abortions that have taken place, I think in this country or around the world, don't quote me on that statistic, think about who those people could have been. They could have cured cancer. They could have changed
sure.
like, I mean, I can't even we have to grieve that kind of
Sure we
loss,
do.
right? The
Sure we do.
cumulative loss is just huge. And so
Yeah.
that is really important. And that celebration of life service just brings closure. And there's activities that can surround that. Like one of my favorite is to write you got to make sure it's legal where you live, but write a message to your child on a balloon and then let it go and watch it until you can't see it anymore. And whether you believe in God or not, and I've worked with a lot of people that don't believe with God, or people that don't want to start with a God message. They might be Christians, but they're judging themselves so harshly, they really don't want to start with God. Doesn't mean they won't end with God, but we want to meet people where they are. So I have worked with people that are atheists. And
Sure.
there's something about being able to see that balloon until
Wow.
at some point you can't see it that just makes people feel like their child is in a better place. They might not talk about it as heaven. That's where I know my child is. And I can't wait to meet her.
Oh.
Now I'm going to totally meet her one day. And if we have jobs in heaven, my daughter is the welcoming committee for everybody new that gets to heaven.
Oh, I love that. I love that because yes, that is a baby and that is your child. Do they
Mhm.
name the child? I think they said to name the child and just really understand who she was or who he was in
Yeah.
your
And
life.
I mean, some people aren't comfortable with that. I mean, some of the activities that we do, like blowing out a candle, some people are resistant to that. Some people don't want to name it because they don't know what the gender was. For me, I can only tell you what I did. I just said, like, God, like, please reveal to me. I just want to know, did I have a son or a daughter? And as I went through a lot of healing programming through my research throughout the course of a couple of years. And at one of them, I used to talk about my baby as an it, like it would have been this or what. And then one day I just remember saying her or she. And like when you say something like that you've never said before, for me, I kind of like cock my head and like, where did that come from? And then it just seemed natural for me to refer to her as she or her. And so I just believe that God was telling me that I had a daughter. And he also named my daughter. I was I always wanted to have a flower shop when I was younger. And as time went on through my healing journey, the name just Lily came to me. And I'm like, God, you got to be kidding me, right? Like, I would never name my daughter Lily. She would be tormented in school, named after a flower. And then throughout the court, I just sat with it. I hadn't taken it on yet. I hadn't owned it yet. But then he told me that her name was Lily Rose. Or I just
Ah,
like spoke those out, Lily Rose. And one day we were finishing up a group and we always gave flower arrangements to the church. We were meeting in a church then, and I was arranging the flowers, and the people didn't know that I wanted to be a florist. And they said, God, Karen, you're really good at that. And I said, yeah, man, you wanted to be a florist one day. And the room went silent. I'm like, what? What? So Lily Rose, florist. I just dropped to my knees. That was just confirmation that I have a daughter. Her name is Lily Rose. It chokes me
wow.
up a little bit. I can't
I
wait to meet
mean,
her.
yes, what a beautiful story and so comforting. So
Yeah.
comforting. The importance of your journey and then how that helped you heal and now you work with this organization with moms. How do you communicate the importance of going through a healing? Because like you said, maybe some moms don't want to that have had an abortion.
Yeah, I mean, we just keep putting the message out there. We have an after abortion line where people can call, text, chat, what have you. And whenever we present and we do a lot of webinars in our organization, we've pivoted since we're not with the pregnancy center anymore. We're not necessarily an organization that offers healing, even though we do. We just don't want to duplicate what somebody else is doing. We try to fill gaps. Like if some of our providers, abortion healing providers, which are those programs within pregnancy centers, we're trying to teach them how to facilitate after abortion healing, virtually, in person, client focused, meeting the client where they are. And we just try to build awareness. So our our
Yeah, tell us
three
the mission.
C's.
Yeah.
Yeah, the three C's are to lead with compassion. Well, first of all, we want to be a catalyst for change, and then we want to lead with compassion. You know, abortion, the topic of abortion is so polarizing. I mean, we want to bridge the gap. You know,
Mm,
we're trying to not be pro-life, pro-choice. We're not trying to be conservative, liberal, right? We're just trying to meet hurting people where they are so that they don't hurt anymore. Because we know that
right.
hurt people, right?
Mm.
And I'm going to give you another statistic. 50% of the abortions performed in this country are performed on somebody that's already had one.
I was just going to ask that because that's I just saw that here in my notes because I have, interviewed quite a few people about this topic and they would tell us that they had two or three abortions.
Yeah, and just think about it. We're trying to
Wow.
prove this. We're trying to get some evidence-based data to prove this because we say it all the time, but I can't substantiate it with numbers, but we're working on it. And we do a lot of research projects. We're going to do another round in 2025. But if we could connect that woman or man, because men can either influence or don't know anything about the abortion, they're
Sure.
impacted equally as much as women are. If we could connect with that man or woman after their first abortion experience before they get pregnant again, how likely would they be to choose abortion
Mm,
again? In my experience, there's no way after I went through healing, if I was still in childbearing years, that I would ever make that decision again.
right. Oh, so important when you think about that statistic, 50%, have another and the opportunity to help these women heal and get on with their life and just all that God has available for them. The how often do you see someone that just doesn't recognize that it ever happened versus somebody that's carrying around maybe just the chains of it? It's probably two different, right? Someone who never acknowledges it and is suppressed, and then there's one that just has carried the chains and just never has dealt with it either. I guess there's a variety of stages, I guess, or
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
aspects.
Um, for those people that have suppressed it like me, until somebody brings the conversation up, like on an intake form where I disclosed that I'd had an abortion, I don't know that they would ever come forward.
Mm,
It's those people that are struggling in
I
some
gotcha.
way
Yeah, that's what I'm
that would
wondering.
reach out to us, right? That would reach out to us and say, and then we have the opportunity to let them know that healing really works. We'll take this journey with you. You deserve it. You deserve it, right?
Yeah. In your organization, again, the name of it is called Support After Abortion.
Mhm.
And tell us, is this a phone? Is this around the country? How would moms that are listening right now get support after abortion? Because you only not only do the healing, I'm sure there's all kinds of ways that you help women in this crisis situation.
Yeah, that's such a good question. I'm so glad you asked it. So we're international. We help people around the world. I can remember right when COVID hit, when we became our own nonprofit, I was facilitating an Unraveled Roots or an after abortion healing program, and I had a woman from Switzerland in my group.
Oh,
We do everything virtually. We don't have an office. We used to be dispersed throughout the country. Now I'm the only Floridian, and most everybody else is in South Carolina. Um,
okay.
and so, and how can you connect with us? There's a couple of things that I want to tell you. So, for those of you that are listening, first of all, I want you to know that if you're hurting after your abortion, it's okay. It's okay, right? And we want to come alongside you because we want you to walk into your full potential. I'm going to tell you, God does not waste your pain. And if
Mm,
you go through healing, He will bring purpose to your pain. I got to say one other thing before I move on. I was listening to a song and I love this. It said, I was preparing to speak at a church and it said, I'm not breaking, I'm not broken, I'm unfolding, right?
oh,
I'm not breaking, I'm not broken, I'm unfolding, I'm becoming, right?
yes, it's
I'm
beautiful.
becoming, and we haven't arrived yet. So you are becoming too, right? And so I want to encourage you to go to our website. It's www.supportafterabortion.com.
Yeah.
There is a client healing tab on there, and you can go in there and look at all the video projects that we've created just for you. There's videos in there, really short ones, that if you're considering an abortion, get the information that you need in order to be able to make a well-informed decision. The decision's yours, but just be well-informed, right? Because you can't go back and change it, right? If you've already had an abortion and you're struggling, we got videos for you. We have after abortion healing that you can do self-guided at your own pace. And if, as you're doing that, if you would like to discuss it with somebody, you can either find a local pregnancy center near you, call our after abortion line. We'll get you connected to an agency that can walk through that and talk through that process with you. I mean, we're here for you. Just reach out to us.
It's beautiful. That is so beautiful. One of the things you touched on earlier is the men, the
Yeah.
dads. You know, we kind of think of them as just the impregnators, you know, but they're dads too. And I know a lot of times, one, they don't support and they push them towards an abortion, or two, they don't want the abortion and they want them to carry the pregnancy and be a dad, and they know the severity of it. Let's talk a little bit about to the men.
Yeah. We did research on this. I used to have this judgment that men influence the decision the most, and we found out we were wrong.
Really? Okay.
So let me tell you why that is. And we haven't gotten to the bottom of it yet, but men's perception when they find out that their partner is pregnant and women's perception are different. Men and women are different. They don't communicate the same. They make assumptions. Men have been programmed to think that this is her body, her choice. And so maybe they don't speak up. And so how they feel about it, men feel like they weren't in the influencer where women felt like they were. Right?
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't really matter. Right?
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter at this point. The decision's already been made. But men can grieve. Men do grieve. They grieve differently than women, but they do grieve that loss. I don't work with men personally because I'm a woman and I'm not a man. But we have a man on our staff that is willing to work with men and talk through the process. Yeah. So we don't want to leave men out of the conversation anymore because, again, if a man gets healing after an abortion, whatever influenced that decision, and he gets connected to healing, he's going to react differently if his partner got pregnant again.
Yeah.
He's not going to stay silent if he stayed silent before. He's going to speak his mind. He's going to reconsider whether or not he should influence it because how it impacted both him and his partner, right?
Absolutely.
We learn from our mistakes, right?
Right.
We learn from our mistakes, and this is what this is all about.
And when you have a mom that calls you and you start to counsel them and they start softening or reaching out, and you take them through this program, I guess just maybe some insight of what you've seen and how women have gone on maybe to pick up the pieces in their lives, right?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. I just want to clarify that we're not counselors. Most of us are not counselors. We're lay people. So we don't want to, we do refer to professional therapy if that's what the client prefers, if that's really where they should start their journey. But what we do on the after abortion line is we are just there to listen. So often people call us because they've just never told anybody. You know, somebody said to me once, abortion is socially accepted, but nobody ever talks about it.
That is so true.
Right. And so we are just a venue for them to be able to come and say, like, listen, I had an abortion 3 weeks ago, and I don't know why I can't get out of bed. I can barely drag myself to work. I think I'm going to probably get fired. My boyfriend doesn't talk to me anymore. My friends don't want to hang out with me. What is wrong with me? You know, and we can explain that to them from a physiological standpoint and from an emotional standpoint, right?
Sure.
And so sometimes they just want to come to us to unload. And for that reason, right now during the holidays, we know that there's a lot of triggers. We're having drop-in support groups. Anybody can come just to talk about whatever it is that's going on with them, just a place to land, right? During the holidays. There's a lot of expectation around the holidays. There's a lot of joy around the holidays. Some people might not want to participate in that, and that's okay too. You can say no. You don't have to go, right?
Right. Because their hearts are heavy. Because like you said, whether they've dealt with it or they're in this journey, something is heavy in their heart. It reminds me of your story when you said you would go through the grocery store and just feel so sad about the situation. Do you think that abortion has become birth control at this point?
For some people, absolutely. You know, for those people that have had multiple abortions, I think they do consider it to be birth control. Yeah. Can I just go back to the question that you asked me before, though,
Sure,
about
go
how
ahead.
we help these people that reach out to our abortion line? And so some people, like I said, just want to talk, but if they really want to get connected to healing, we have options for them. We have
Right.
a directory on our website, which are providers that we have vetted out to a certain degree, and they
Okay.
can put when their groups are scheduled, and we can connect them with those people if that's what they want to do. If they want to do it in person, virtually, one-on-one in a small group, whatever the client prefers is what we're going to offer them. And so we
Nice.
can get them connected, and then we're going to make sure that that referral that we made, that the connection's made, right? We don't just want them to be out there waiting for somebody to contact them and have that contact never made. So we follow up. We're
Right.
not taking that client back, but we're just following up to make sure that they're secure. But we don't
Right.
want them to feel alone, right?
No.
Because this is a scary process. And I'm telling you, for all those that you are watching, I'm not trying to scare you, but it's going to get worse before it gets better. But that's why you connect with an abortion healing provider who will take that journey, because you're going to have to feel stuff that you don't want to feel, right?
Right. Yeah.
And but I can promise you it's going to get better, because you can't go around, under, over grief. You have to go through it. And this is
Yeah.
a grief issue.
Oh, wow. So powerful, Karen. And there's no charge for your services, or how does that work?
No, no, we don't want money to be a barrier for people to get connected
Good.
to the help that they want. We're fortunate in that way for right now. I don't know if that will change in the future, but we've written a couple of books that you could purchase. But if you desperately want them and you don't have the money to purchase them, we'd be happy to give them to you.
Wow. Wow. What an incredible organization. What a beautiful testimony you have. And again, you just touched on some very powerful advice, but I'd love to have you just give us some closing words to the moms that are listening, or what would they say? I guess the other thing I'd say, Karen, is what do you say maybe to someone that maybe is, had an abortion and has never really maybe dealt with it? How do you do that, like friend to friend or mother to daughter or whatever that is? How do you approach that to someone?
We get asked that all the time. And
Okay.
I'm going to answer it two ways. First, we want to prepare you with what to do if a friend of yours, a neighbor of yours, a daughter of a friend of yours comes to you and lets you know that they had an abortion. We have a 4-step process. You can download the card for free from our website. And the 4-step process is to check your judgment, right? If you're focusing on the baby, I would ask you to leave that at the door. We consider abortion to be a human issue. Like, what was it in that man or woman's life that compelled them to think that abortion was their only option? It's a human issue, right?
Okay.
What are the circumstances? So we want you to check your judgments. If I say to you, I had 10 abortions, what image comes to mind?
Right.
Is it that homeless addict? Is it an actress that's excelling at her career? Is it the pastor's wife who just can't let anybody know that she had an abortion previously because they get kicked out of the church? Or do words like murderer or baby killer or hell come into mind, right? So we want you to check your judgments. We want you to lead with compassion, right? Tap into the pain that you've experienced in your life. Remember what it felt like for you when you were going through it, and who came alongside you to help you through,
Mm,
right? Tap into compassion. Ask them to share. Sometimes they just want to get the words out, and then connect them to us, right? That's one way to answer it. So if you already know about somebody that's had an abortion, I would just ask them, like, how are you doing since then? How has your life? I would ask what questions, like, how has your life changed since you had your abortion? I'm so sorry you went through that. Do you want to talk about it?
mm,
Right? I'm here to listen. I want to help you. Do you,
yeah.
do you see any changes in your life that you wish hadn't changed? Like stuff like that, just to get them to start talking, because they might not even know how they feel about it.
Yeah. And then let them know about your organization again. And how do we find your organization again? Let's have you say that one more time for us, Karen, please.
The Hope Line is 844-289-4673. That's 844-289-4673, or www.supportafterabortion.com.
Thank you. Any closing comments, Karen, for our moms that we didn't touch on? Because we so appreciate this because again, 1 in 4 women are dealing with this.
Yeah.
Sadness. It's sad.
Yeah.
Anything else for mamas? We're okay?
Yeah. I'm just trying to get my thoughts together on
Yeah,
what
no, I know
I want to
because
say
it
in
is.
closing
It's
moments.
yeah, closing moments to either to those, I guess right now I probably would just say to those to the 1 in 4.
If you've had an abortion and you're struggling afterwards, life can be different. I'm living proof of that. My life went sideways for decades, but I sit here today. You said something earlier about you don't ever get over it. I realize now you can be sad and joyful at the same time.
Mm.
There's no shame in what I've done anymore, and I'm telling you, you don't have to be ashamed of what you've done. There doesn't have to be any regret anymore. You can have closure and you can move forward in life in whatever way you dream. Just reach out for help. Secrets keep us sick. Share your secret with me.
Wow. Amen, Karen. Thank you so much. What a beautiful testimony. What an amazing organization. What an incredible, I guess, incredible outreach to help moms that
Thank
have
you.
been affected by this. Thank you so much.
You're
And
welcome,
God bless
Debbie.
your work. God bless your
Thank
work
you.
there.
Thank you for what you do.
Okay.
It was
Thank you so
fun.
much again. Thanks,
All right.
Karen. All right. Thanks again, Karen, for sharing your really incredible story of healing, your journey, and thank you for what you're doing with that organization. I know many of our moms, or friends of our moms, are going to go ahead and take advantage of that. So thank you once again. And to our moms that are listening, not only is this a great resource here at the podcast for Moms for America, but we have incredible programs, resources, seminars, all of this to support you on your journey through motherhood in your home and in your community. Go to momsforamerica.us. Join us there. Be a part of our family. We are here to help support you. I say this every week. We have it all from public policy to parental rights, from the kitchen table to Congress. We here at Moms for America are here to help support you. All right, moms, let's keep changing our country. You got it. One home at a time. Talk to you soon, and I will see you next week. Thanks so much. Bye-bye. A special thank you to our sponsors, the Herzog Foundation and Tuvu. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Herzog Foundation.